People ask, why is this exhibit important? The exhibit raises awareness of the Armenian Genocide. The Armenians are an ancient civilization dating back to 6th century BCE who were indigenous to the Near East region. Between 1915 and 1918, the Armenians were nearly annihilated at the hands of the government of the Ottoman Empire under the cover of World War I. Some 1.5 million Armenians, along with other Ottoman Christians, were killed through death marches, executions, mass drownings, and other means. The works here will live on to be viewed by Armenian children and others for many years to come.
This particular piece that's in the show, I had been doing work on the Armenian Genocide for a while, and work on Armenian themes, and also I've been very interested in Armenian art history. I've been studying Armenian art history, and the Church of the Holy Cross on the island of Akhtamar inspired me specifically to make this piece. And I had the opportunity to visit the island and the church, and was able to see firsthand the stone carvings, and it all came together from that.
For me, my piece is called Khachkar, is number 6. So it's the 6th in a series of khachkars, which is an Armenian word that literally translates as cross rock. And they're often they could be made as something to honor somebody. Someone could commission it to be made. It could be a burial site, and it could be like a headstone. So there were different reasons why they were made. And they really fit into my work because of the way they're structured and made with these intricate, amazing, beautiful designs and this cross in the middle. It was a way for me to make my pieces also broken down, my art, into multiple paintings, and be able to sort of tell stories through that.
The rug that I have in the show was inspired by the story that my grandmother passed along to me about passage to America. The rug was one of 2, and one was lost. And when I went to the Armenian Museum in Watertown, she started looking through this binder of rugs to try to find the one that was lost, even though she had never seen it. So it was almost a recreation of what the rug possibly could have been. There is one that was able to be kept and came to America. The other, again, was sold for passage. So I was inspired by the lost rug, or the rug that really enabled my family to come here.
Mary was very cognizant of her mother's traumatic past and the difficulties that her mother had had in getting out of Ottoman Turkey at the time of the Armenian Genocide. And she focused on her mother, and her portraits of her mother are, as anybody looking at them can see, they're dominated by deep melancholy and sadness. So although Mary did not paint images of the genocide itself, the legacy of the genocide is shown in Mary's portraiture.
Mary told a story once about how when she was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, she had to recite a poem in front of a group of Armenians, some kind of an event. And as she was reciting it, she probably did not understand the implications of it. It was about the genocide. She saw everybody in the audience start to cry, and she didn't know why they were crying. Was it because of what she had said or the way she was behaving? And she ran off the stage. Somehow that seems to me to be emblematic of a situation where there's an ancestral memory in everybody somehow, yet the specifics are not there. So Mary knew And we all knew that trauma happened to her mother, our grandmother, but we didn't know the specifics of it. So the memory is there, yet it gets filled in by the imagination. And I think that's what Mary lived with.
When Ara and I started this project, we realized that the people were getting older, they were aging, and we weren't going to have them around much longer. So we thought this is something we need to do. And what motivated us to do that was the denial by the Turkish government of the genocide. And it made us think that we have to do something to justify this. Now, the photographs were created, and also there was an oral history created for each individual. So that's how the project kind of advanced.
The real impetus for it, this is the genocide, we are both descendants of genocide survivors. And so that's in our family, right? The stories, everything. So it was always in our minds all the time. And so the actual critical point for me was, I was doing this project with the Armenian community in Los Angeles, photographing diaspora. And I went to photograph an event for the 80th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. And they had brought 80 survivors from different places to get on stage. And they all got up on stage, and literally you could look at them. I looked at them, and then they were very much 1 foot in the grave. I could see right there, whatever they knew was about to disappear. They were on the verge of disappearing. And so it was at that point I said, I have to start this. And so this is what happened with Levon. We were in a group show together, and then we met, and I said, let's have coffee or whatnot. I don't know. We decided to do something, and then I told him that I started this project, and he said that he had worked with genocide survivors and he had those double portraits, but he didn't have the kind of support to continue it. And so we decided to work together, and it was just one of these things that just comes together, and it was so unlikely, but also very much made complete sense to us to do this project. And it's been 30 years we've been working on it.
When I exhibited this painting, I've exhibited it publicly twice. This is the third time. It is amazing to see Armenians approach this painting, because they have this recognition of the names of the villages that are embedded in the text of the painting. And these are villages that many of the villages, the names don't exist on the map anymore. And so that's to have an affirmation for Armenians that this is a place that existed. This is the name of the town where my family came from. It's just really, it's the most moving part of exhibiting this painting for me, is to see Armenians coming up and almost, just pointing at the painting and saying, oh, I know that, that's where Grandma came from, that's where Aunt Ripsume came from, and it's really moving. And also they probably recognize the tatting, and they recognize Ararat because every Armenian sees it. So it's just really moving for the community to see it.
I think one of the most important aspects of art is the freedom that you have in art outside the boundaries that society puts on the individuals. In the case of confront traumatic past, I think that in front of a traumatic past, a lot of victims, they can't speak. They are wordless. So I think that creativity and playfulness and sensitivity can help to give a voice to those people.
The little boy he was, captured in a moment of sheer bliss, in innocence that would soon fade into sentiment and ecstasy, igniting a flame from which the heart breaks. It was an unspoken world, hushed in secrecy, fear of the Turks. Being Armenian had its aftermath of suffering, threatening beyond belief. The little boy who smiled for the camera, holding back the tears because he knew his inner world didn't match the outer.
The before and after exhibit speaks to this Armenian refugee experience. It calls on us to recognize and understand the resilience of Armenian genocide survivors, their families through generations, and today's richness of Armenian identity despite attempted annihilation. The exhibit says to us, Parev, we are here as Armenians. We survived, we thrive, and we cherish our families and our beautiful culture.